All right, guys. So what we're going to do today is just kind of take a moment and share with you how we have been thinking through this memory palace process. Just show you how we would create a new room in the palace and identify some of the new presidents we want to remember. So we've already kind of worked through, I think, about 24 of the presidents, first 24 that we have. And so I want to kind of quickly summarize what we did there, just overall process, and then we're going to kind of spitball and come up with the next four and talk about, let you kind of see us model that process for adding new places in the room.
So, like we were talking about, you're never going to remember that. If you use this to try to remember all of these presidents, their faces, they all look about the same. So that's why the memory palace technique works so well. So we pulled this, and then what we did is we just asked ChatGPT, hey, in your opinion, what's the highlight of each president? And so then it spit out a list. And obviously, because we're teachers, we checked it a little bit, made sure it was right. And so we had a list of highlights of each president. And that gave us why we wanted to do that is because that gave us some information to use when we're building this crazy story to put each president into each room. We wanted to remember a fun fact about that president. And so we sort of incorporated that into our story.
Yep. So after we had this list, we had a page that had these interesting facts or stories that we could play off of. Then we just needed to build our palace. And so one of the things we immediately thought of was, well, what if we could use the White House? And so I've never been in the White House. I don't think Coach Gonzales has either yet. But we went and we just found a map of the West Wing. And as we kind of showed you guys during some of the meetings, we just took that map and we just played with it. We identified what we thought we would need. So we chose 12 rooms because if we were able to find 4 spots per room, 12 times 4, that would give us space for 48 presidents, which would take us all the way through the current president with another space for number 48, whoever that will be. So then we just started finding Google search images for each of these rooms. We would come up with which places in the room seemed memorable that we could imagine sort of walking around in the room to visit each of those spots, and then placing the presidents there. And so the way we set up our PowerPoint, and you don't have to do it this exact way, we wanted to be able to look at the room and focus on the spots without seeing the names of the presidents to kind of test ourselves and quiz ourselves. So we have sort of a blank picture of this first room. This was the lobby in the West Wing. And we had 4 spots picked out, this little desk, this couch, the armoire, and then the second couch over here on the right. And we sort of thought of this as like spot 1, spot 2, spot 3, and spot 4. And so then we placed the first 4 presidents there. And then in our answer key, so to speak, we just duplicated our slide and added in the names and the numbers for which president was at which spot.
So, and again, you don't have to do this. This part, the answer key part, you don't have to do. Right. We were just doing it for when we were quizzing ourselves. We would go and then we'd be able to see, oh, yeah, we got them right.
Yep. So on yours, like he said, you don't have to have both. We do want your slides to show us what you're remembering at each spot. So we do want you to have sort of the list of the names, but you don't have to have the blank slide and that. That'll just allow us when we do the presentation and the students get up front and they're going through naming and going through their list, everybody else who's in the audience can see the exact names of who's supposed to be where, and we can kind of sort of check you as you're going through your list.
And you're going to see a video, the second video we're going to make here in just a second, you'll see us act this out. So you're going to see exactly what you're going to be doing on June 2nd.
Exactly. So the last room we had sort of sat down and worked on together, we made it through president number 24, and we decided, we said, what if we could just model this and build out one more room, maybe get up through president number 28, and let you guys see and hear sort of our thought process, how we talk it out as a group. And again, kind of encourage you to see the benefits of doing this together, where somebody comes up with an idea and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. It's a great thought that we could build a better story to put each of these presidents in these spots. Obviously, whatever topic you chose, it'll just add something to that story. So the next room in our list, this was the Oval Office. That's where we have presidents 21 through 24. And then that takes us right across the hallway to what we found was called the Roosevelt Room, I believe. Named after Teddy Roosevelt. We're assuming his poster, his painting is on the wall. And it's very fitting because it turns out he's going to be in this room as well. So we have our list of presidents. but I just wanted to kind of let you see it on the screen as well. So the 4 presidents we're going to have to try to remember in this room are William McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, and Woodrow Wilson. So we're just going to kind of spitball and talk through this process and let you guys sort of see it in action. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for what are some unique or sort of standout places in this picture where we think, oh, we could put something there because that seems pretty memorable. So I have a duplicate slide here, and I'm going to start out. We're going to figure out where we want to put president number 25. And Coach, jump in if you see something. What jumps out to me, and maybe I should have said this earlier, but one of the things we've done is we've sort of always followed this same circular pattern throughout each room we go in.
Right.
So it's like they go into the room and you kind of do sort of clockwise around the room. And so if we're imagining coming in this door right here, because I believe the Oval Office is right across the hallway from that, when we were looking at the map, if we came in this door, then immediately to my left, I see all these flags, this painting, this buffalo statue is kind of jumping out to me. So I'm thinking we put president number 25. He has something to do with this buffalo statue over here. So then we need to figure out, okay, what do we want to do president 26?
And obviously, like the chair right here at the head of the table, would be a good, maybe a 26.
Okay. So we're just kind of making our way around the outside of the room. So buffalo statue, head of the table makes sense to me. And I think, let's go back to the list. Yeah, so 26 is going to be Teddy Roosevelt. He's sort of sitting at the head of the table.
Makes sense because it's his room, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's got his painting on the wall, so he's like admiring himself. Yeah, I think there's a lot of simple little things we can add to our story with that. So then we have to put Taft, I believe, 27. Yep. So he was our fat president, right?
Yeah. So let's maybe over here with the chair just walking around again clockwise around the room.
Yep.
We'll figure out a story there in a second for that one.
Okay. So he'll be 27.
And I love these double doors in the room. So I think we should incorporate like the clock and these double door, like this final wall, like it's a pretty cool wall.
Okay. So we'll add maybe 28. And that was Woodrow Wilson. Is that right? Yep. So we'll have him doing something over here by the fireplace or clock or the double doors. Okay.
And again, so we're modeling this for you. So this is sort of, and it's not obviously the exact same process you're doing for each place, but this sort of gives hopefully an idea of how to build these things. So now we have them all labeled, our spots in the room. Now we got to take our presidents, put them in each spot, come up with a crazy story, and tie it in with our one fact that we want to remember.
All right, so we got William McKinley first. When I hear that name, I don't know much about William McKinley, naturally. I don't remember anything necessarily from history, but I do know, like, in my mind, sort of latching or hooking on to some background knowledge. I've heard of Mount McKinley, that tall mountain. Is that in Alaska, I think? And so maybe like in my mind, I can imagine this buffalo like running up a mountain or something. And so that mountain and then McKinley, that kind of hooks it together.
Nice. And then obviously McKinley was big. So we had the Spanish-American War. And so this is when we acquired the Philippines as a territory and Puerto Rico as a territory.
Fighting against Spain, Spanish-American War. Okay.
So maybe McKinley's riding the buffalo up this mountain, up and down, American flag.
Yep.
And sort of trying to like plant the American flag, into more territories or something.
I like it.
Weird like that.
Okay. So let's put his name here as well. So William McKinley riding this buffalo. He's going to be riding it up the mountain, carrying an American flag, maybe even just like, sword swinging at different Spanish soldiers as he's going up.
I like the sword idea, yeah. Okay. American flag in one hand, sword in the other.
Yeah. Okay. So then that'll be McKinley leading America during the Spanish-American War, taking that buffalo up the hill. Okay, sweet. So then this takes us to, I think, who's probably going to be the easiest one in this room. Teddy Roosevelt in his own room. So we'll put him at the head of the table like we already said. All right.
So a few cool things about Teddy Roosevelt that we want to sort of remember. Um, you know, well, I
He's
mean,
he was famous for that phrase, right?
yeah,
Walk softly, carry a big stick.
yeah.
So maybe he's sitting at this. He's just got a big stick in his hand, like showing it to anybody who's sitting at this table. We don't really have anybody at the table right now, but he's got his stick there, just showing sort of
And
American strength.
maybe he's like, shh, with his big weird stick, you know.
Yeah,
It's like,
because he was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember he was one of the generals or soldiers during the Spanish American
right,
War. Like, sort of came his fame sort
Rough
of built.
Rider type
Yeah,
deal. Yep.
and then I know he was famous again, just kind of peeking over at our list. So he was the one that sort of really built out the national park system, conservation of
Yep.
these places in America. So maybe on the table in front of him, he's just got these maps of the United States, and he's like, maybe that giant stick. This is kind of crazy, but maybe it's like he's dipping it in like a giant ink pen, and he's just like circling places that he wants to be parks.
Okay.
Like, oh, Yellowstone over here,
All right.
Yosemite. Like, he's just picking out places that he thinks need to be preserved.
All right. I like it. All right, so we got McKinley going up and down the Buffalo with the Spanish sword in his hand, American flag,
Yep.
expanding the country.
Yep.
And then we got Teddy Roosevelt, speak softly, carry another big stick. We got a lot of sticks in this.
That's right.
And then we're gonna move over.
And speaking of big sticks, we got Howard Taft, William H. Taft.
our biggest president.
Is it? Do you know if it's true? I know I've always heard he like got stuck in a bathtub. Gosh, I honestly don't know if it's true.
Like, we will get that answered for them at the meeting.
Okay.
Let's get to the bottom of that story.
Right.
Do a deep dive.
So I have heard that he got stuck in a bathtub because he was so big, and somebody they had to break it apart or something to get him out. So he was very heavy.
All right. So he was a big guy. So I'm thinking he's definitely, again, the weirder the better. I think he sits on this table and just smashes it.
Okay.
And like just sheepishly gets up, and like everybody looks at him like, dude, what are you thinking? You know? And then maybe Teddy Roosevelt yells at him, oh, now we're going to have to raise taxes.
To pay for the table?
Pay for the table.
Okay.
And he's like trying to sit in this chair right there.
Yeah, our list, our ChatGPT list, he expanded the federal income tax with the 16th Amendment. So, okay. So we got to raise taxes to pay for the table he broke, and that's where the 16th Amendment comes from. All right. I like the story.
William Howard Taft.
Okay.
We'll be able to remember that for sure.
Our list also says he was the only president to ever be a Supreme Court justice as well. So maybe he's like, he gets up, dusts himself off. Somebody gives him a robe to just put on. He just puts a black robe over his top, and it's like, okay. He was president and Supreme Court, but he raised taxes, increased federal income tax.
So the next time you look at your paycheck, when you see the federal income tax line, that's that guy right there.
It's Taft. All right. Sweet. So we got McKinley on the Buffalo riding up and down the mountain to help me remember McKinley. Spanish-American War. He's just slinging the sword, conquering some new places. We conquered, what was it, Philippines, Puerto Rico. Okay. And then we got Teddy Roosevelt, got the big stick. He's circling places on the map on that table, showing us which parks, we need to preserve the land for. Takes us to Taft. He sits down because he's so big, breaks the table. We got to raise taxes to pay for this. So 16th Amendment comes out, increasing federal income tax. Got it. And this takes us to number 28, which is Woodrow Wilson. Okay.
So during this time, we had World War I.
Yep.
And then he tried to create a League of Nations with the other countries.
That's what becomes the UN?
Yep. Eventually. And eventually it's going to become the UN. But it was a embarrassing failure. It did not pass. The Senate did not pass his own idea. And so it sort of all fell apart. But he had these 14 points. A lot of them were later incorporated in the United Nations. So what do you think we should do here?
So we put him by this clock. So maybe it's like the bells or the alarm is sort of going off at this clock.
Like the war. Oh, yeah. Crap. Like war. Okay.
It's dinging. The war is beginning. So that'll connect us back to, okay, he's leading America during World War I. Obviously, into World War One, Germany just gets hammered with this peace treaty. But then he's presenting this idea, promoting this League of Nations
Let's
idea.
never let another world war happen.
Right.
Again.
And obviously he was so successful.
Yeah.
But we don't have to worry about Germany anymore, he said.
That is
Yeah.
what, yeah.
So you said he's got 14 points. How many chairs do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 7 chairs on this side,
Oh,
7
there
on
we go.
both
We got
sides. Yeah.
14.
So we
How about
got
that, huh?
we got 7
cool. Okay.
and 7. So we'll remember 14 chairs. Maybe he can even just point at the chairs.
How about we have?
the-
How about? Oh, I got it. How about we have him run out that door, and like go get a country, and then run back into this door
and
and
put the
sit a
country-
country down, and like just like he's just like trying to get all these countries
right,
to like
bring in the
agree.
League of Nations together.
Yeah.
Okay.
On these like 14 points, and if we
Okay.
can get more countries around the table to agree on these 14 points, maybe we won't have another war.
I like it. Okay, so Woodrow Wilson leading during World War One. The clock, it's almost like I know it's a small clock, but like I imagine like the grandfather clock, like loud gong sound, just echoing throughout the room, like it gets everybody's attention, and it works out because World War One started over this assassination in this small country by like
Franz Ferdinand.
these ethnic, Serbian and Hungarian issues that are happening, and then that just explodes into everybody gets brought in from all these alliances and treaties that they had signed long ago. And then he's got his 14 nations.
And that's our room.
14 points.
We did it.
Yeah. Sweet.
And that's how you do it. And then you just keep doing it, right? Yeah. Whether you're doing Disney princesses or F1 racing tracks, Yep.
Cool. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to present in a second video what this we hope would look like day of our presentation. So we're going to set this up in the theater and display this. We'll walk up front, kind of keep our backs to the screen because we want to be able to see, can we just go off of what's in our head and kind of talk through we had 24, now 28 presidents, and we'll just kind of
pressure's on,
back
man.
and forth. All right. Sounds good, man.